Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyanandam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are making our way still through the 7th chapter. And does anyone know what verse we're on and on what page we're on might help too?
We're on number 57.
Chapter 6?
Chapter 7. Isn't that
7.
right?
Yes, chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
57, chapter 57.
He's jet lagged.
Dashamo sthiti vidbhrantam paroksha jnanam ikshate brahmastityapi tad brahmatityapi tadvat syat jnanava varanam samam. The statement, quote, the 10th exists, is not lost, end quote, is indirect knowledge, and it is not false. Similarly, the indirect knowledge, quote, Brahman exists, end quote, is not false. In both cases, the obscuring of the truth due to ignorance is the same.
So again, the metaphor that Vidyaranya is talking about is the story of the 10 boys crossing the river in the boat, and the boat capsizes, and they swim to shore, and they're not sure everyone's there. So someone says, someone count us. So one of the boys counts up and he comes to 9. He says, oh, we're missing somebody. Who's missing? There's only 9 of us. You count. And that boy counts to 9. I don't know who it is. So someone comes along and says, you forgot to count yourself. You are the 10th boy. So the idea here is, first of all, someone gives them indirect knowledge. No, there's all 10 of you here. Paroksha jnanam. And then now count and include yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, yes. Aparoksha jnanam. So also, what is it that gets realized? This is the issue that Vidyaranya is talking about. Remember, both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. what he's talking about here, the technical term he will use is chidabhasa, the reflection of consciousness caught in the web of thought. This jiva bhavana, this chidakasha, chidchaya, this reflection, the shadow self, fundamentally different than what he calls kutastha, self which is immovable like a mountain. And so the doubter says, how can this chidabhasa, this reflected self, say, I am Brahman? Because he's not Brahman. That's like my thumb saying, I am Brahman. That's not what's happening. There are two kinds of knowledge about which we're talking. How is it that the self is both unknowable and yet always known? We just finished Kena Upanishad. Agni goes there, that's sight, comes back, I do not know the adorable spirit. Vayu goes there, comes back. Vayu's the wind, that's a sense of touch, but it's all metaphor. It means all five of the senses. I do not know. Then Indra goes, the mind. And when he gets close to the adorable spirit, it disappears. Lots of implication there. So the point is, how do you know yourself? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You do not think yourself. All of that is upadis, equipment. Yet you are not unknown. Are you you? Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. How do you know it? I don't know. I just do. That's right. But listen carefully. That knowledge you've always had. When have you ever not been you? So what is my bondage? My bondage is that deeply rooted conviction in the intellect. It's in the Vijnanamaya koshas where it occurs. Where, because of spiritual ignorance, the subtle intellect attributes to the self the qualities of the not self. I think I'm my body, or I think I'm my body plus the sense of being a person. I'm Jim, or Puneet, or Anna, or Nila. Where does that occur? It occurs in the subtle intellect, in the Vijnana Kosha. It causes ignorance. It occurs in using the Vidyaranyas language, Chidabhasa. What is liberation? What gets liberated? The self is always free. The self doesn't get realized. The self doesn't get liberated. It's not like, oh, myself is this miserable little creature and I'm waiting to get liberated, then I will go to Brahman. No. In the subtle intellect, I realize I've always been free. Just like when you awaken from the dream. Where does the dreamer go? We can't say, oh, he merges into the waker. That's not what happens. Poof, he's gone. Oh, I thought I was in this dream, in this place with these people. And then it's gone. And I see, oh, there I am in my bed. So also, you may have come into class this evening. with this beginningless ignorance. Meaning you never see it happen. Thinking I'm a person. I'm Jim. I'm Anna. I'm Milan. I'm Puneet. But if we just tune up the mind a bit, listen to the traffic. With the mind thinned out, notice who or what hears the traffic. You see, it's just being heard. Sound in Chid Akasha, the space of pure awareness. Where did that sense of individuality go? It falls because it's not real. So what the point that Vidyaranya is making here, even though it's indirect knowledge, when the intellect says, I have been told by the scriptures, I have reasoned it out, I've listened to the Guru, and I believe I'm Brahman. Even though it's indirect knowledge, it's not false. It's just partial. Now, pronounce. In the mind. Tune up the mind. Notice the knower. Who are you? And it goes from Paroksha Jnana to Aparoksha Jnana. Any thoughts, any questions about this? A very subtle point. It's laid out very clearly in Yoga Vasishtha. Both bondage and liberation occurred in the mind. The self is ever free. Next verse.
So this is in parallel to like the jnanam, the vritti of jnanam, right? Like which is you use the fact of like reminding yourself.
Yes, yes. And when we get to Jivan Mukti, Viveka, that's the difference between someone in the Hansa state and the Paramahansa state. Going
on. Atma brahmeti vyakyarthe nisheshena vicharite vyaktirullikhyate yadvad dashamastatva masityatah. By a thorough analysis of self is Brahman, the direct knowledge I am Brahman is achieved, just as the man, after having been told that he is the 10th, comes to realize it through reflection.
Yes. So when the traveler says, don't worry, kids, all 10 of you were here. Think, you've counted all the 9 other boys. Now include yourself. You are the 10th. Oh, yeah, I guess I am. So also, we have the spiritual injunction, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Now listen carefully. Many people will waste years of study when they make Atman an idea that they're going to study about, like you're studying chemistry or physics or cooking. Does nothing to free us. What do you think about the self? Oh, what do you think about the self? Well, I think this about the self. As if the self is something hovering around. No, we must start with our direct experience. Who are you? How we start with. Who sees the phone? I do. Who sees the glass? I do. At the very basic foundational meditation, Drik Drishya Viveka, the discrimination between literally the seer and the seen, the self and the not self, the noumenon and the phenomena. Can you see the bowl on the table? Uh-huh. Are you the bowl on the table? No. You're the dude looking at the bowl. Now it gets more subtle to discover I'm not the body, I'm the knower of the body. I'm not the prana, I'm the knower of the prana. I'm not the feelings that occur in the mind, I know the feelings. I'm not the thoughts. They go by like your hand in front of your face. The knower of thoughts. Then the most subtle discrimination between aham and ahamkara, between the witnessing consciousness, which is always the subject, and a personal sense of self, like Jin. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm male, I'm female, I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm successful, I'm not successful. Always see that's ever in front of me. It thins, it thickens, and I feel so miserable. Who is it that feels miserable? Not the self. It's the mind. Constant discrimination between the shadow self, the reflection of consciousness, Chid Abhasa, and Chit, consciousness itself. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
I guess one thought I'm having is
Yes.
It probably doesn't make sense to go find out why, I'm feeling a certain way, or rather, the content of the thought itself, but instead looking at like, oh, I'm feeling like a person, and that itself is the sort of the root.
It depends on where we are in our sadhana. Sometimes, if the mind is very contracted, people can get some relief to know why. So, for example, let's say you have terrible issues trusting people, and anytime someone touches your behind, you jump, and you don't know why. And you have terrible personal relationships, especially intimate love relationships. Then you go into psychotherapy and you find out that you were sexually assaulted as a 7-year-old and you suppressed the memory. Oh, that explains so much. Of course, that's why all these things happen. Now you have some more conscious material to work with. So if you're at that stage of your unfoldment, causation hunting can be some value. But by the time you get to a place where you're studying a text like this, you're absolutely right. At that point, we're dealing with our relationship with the content, not the content itself. Does that help? Mm-hmm. And this is where meditation is so powerful, where the unconscious is made conscious. She's not here tonight, but I remember when Sandaria was talking about the inside of a particular pattern of relationship that she has as an adult. She's had it since she was a kid, and she could see where it came from. Remember when she talked about that? Yeah, it was very valuable for her. She didn't have to go to the psychotherapist, but all of it will come up. All you have to do is nothing. That's the hard part. Don't just do something, sit there. Simple, but not easy. Is that helpful?
Yeah, of course.
Now, again, you may have friends who are not ready for the deeper knowledge. But we do them a disservice if we discount, for example, going to psychotherapy or getting deep tissue body work or stuff like that. Anybody else have any thoughts on this out of their own experience?
Just a one thought, Jim, that whenever even on the meditation or when we are using the active sat asat discrimination, when the thought arises, and if I try to resist or try to get involved, the individuality crucifies. But if I consciously decide not to believe in it, then it goes away.
Exactly. Now that's the highest. That's the highest, when we quit believing the mind itself. Yes. Good point. But most people think their thoughts are pretty real. And even being told you can't think a real thought. You get out there in the world and something triggers us, and boy, it sure does seem real. You know, if your partner criticizes you and you react, it seems real. And it happens. So it all depends on where we are from day to day and in the journey of unfolding. Good point. Excellent point. All right, going on.
दशम क इति प्रश्ने त्वमेवेति निराकृते गणयित्वा स्वेन सह स्वमेव दशमं स्मरेत्. If one of the 10 asks who is the 10th, the answer is that it is he himself. As he counts, he comes to himself and then realizes that he himself is the 10th, which is direct knowledge.
Yes. So we've pretty much done that same idea. The indirect knowledge is the traveler comes along and says, "You're the 10th." And the boy says, "I don't believe it." And then the traveler says, "Count everybody and then include yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Count yourself. 10. Aparoksha jnana. Direct experience. I am not the body, I am not the prana, I am not the mind, not the intellect, and not even the darkness of deep sleep. Koham, who am I? In the mind, introvert the attentive faculty. Notice the knower. Who are you? Well, there's nothing there. And it's shy. This pure awareness, prakasha, the light of chit. Never known as an object, but subjectively no. Next verse.
दशमोऽस्मिति वाक्योत्था न धीरस्य विहन्यते आदिमध्यावसानेषु न नवत्वस्य संशयः. His knowledge that he is the 10th is never negated. Whenever he comes to himself at the beginning, the middle, or the end of his counting, his knowledge that he is the 10th is never in doubt.
Yes, so I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That I am among the 10 is never in doubt. So also listen carefully. Knowledge of the self is not an experience to be gained. Oh, Jim, I took LSD 10 years ago and I had an experience of the self and I want to get back there. Person's a fool. When are you ever not you? You are an eternal factor. What does that mean? You're never not you. I just superimpose all sorts of nonsense on that direct experience. I like to say the self is difficult to realize, not because it's far away or in some wackadoodle mind state. It is difficult to realize because of its profound ordinariness. And we have it indicated in music. We have Anand here tonight. So what's a shruti in music?
Microtone. Like a microtone.
I always thought that's kind of like the drone at the bottom.
Well, there's a Shruti box, which will create a drone.
What do you call that drone? That I have the wrong term.
I forget the term, but
you know what I mean.
Yeah, like
so there's a drone. There's a one sound that's always going on. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when Amini sings, notice she pulls out her phone. There's a just it's going on, and then she can sing the rag on top of that. And what's a Shruti box?
Shruti box just creates that sound, the drone.
Yeah.
So.
Or you have, what's the instrument that just plays the drone?
Tambura.
Tambura, yeah. Tambura?
Depending on the region, tambura, tanpura, yeah.
Okay. What does that symbolize musically? The self. Because no matter what else is happening, it's always there. It's always there. And if you get all caught up in the melodies of the singer and the intricate rhythms of the tabla player, and maybe a violin, you can forget, oh, that drone is going on all the time. So also you are there all the time. A changeless reality. But in the subtle intellect, if I think I'm the reflection of consciousness, caught in the intellect, that's when I start to suffer. Any thoughts on this? It's so important. This is why when you finally get it, it is, oh, I found myself. It's usually, how could I have missed it? It's myself. Oh, are you an enlightened person now? No. I am Brahman. I'm always just that space of consciousness. Has this made you powerful? I don't know. I don't pay much attention to that anymore. I'm just the space of consciousness. Isn't it hard trying to be spiritual all the time? I've given that up. Just the space of consciousness. Chidananda Rupam. Shivoham. Shivoham. No more burdens. Next verse.
One question.
Yes, sir.
So it says that his knowledge is never negated. And that knowledge can be indirect knowledge, which you reflect upon.
It starts with indirect knowledge. Then when you know it's you, that it becomes direct knowledge. So from the Guru, from the scriptures, you know Brahman is. You hear the Mahavakya, this self is Brahman, but you know it only indirectly in the beginning, until through continued reflection, through questions with the teacher, most importantly through your own meditation, you come to see your own direct experience. I'm always there. I never go away. I'm not something seen. If you can see it, that isn't it. You can know it as an object, that isn't it. But you are not unknown. And then in the subtle intellect, you get the aha. Oh, I get what they're talking about. It's myself. And that's called the pratyabhignana, the recognition, the aha.
So in my experience, I've been listening to scripture for a long time. I've been hearing the indirect knowledge for a long time. And I have moments where I'm able to drop my mind. But still, there are times in my life where my mind is very gross and I'm not a fit student for Vedanta. And there's times where I'm much more fit. There are times where I am able to observe the knowledge more directly. But in this verse, it says that the knowledge is never negated. So how does that kind of backward slide happen?
Well, is it really backwards? So let's say you have a miserable day. Do you know you have a miserable day? Did you disappear? So you're still there.
Right.
Once you really get that clear, now your problem is you're not happy. So there are 3 questions we have to address. Yes, he's only been addressing the first one pretty much. Who am I? The second one is, what is this world? How has it come about? So where we drop it, where we lose it, where we get tangled up again, is I keep smooching that damn snake. If I continue to see the phenomenal world as separate, solid, and real, inherently joy-giving and misery-producing, I am not seeing the self in and through the world. Does that make sense? So you not only renounce any ideas, any personal sense of self, but it's always neti neti. It's not just neti. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You have to renounce the world.
Mhm.
Now, few of us want to do that. It's too much fun. And then I don't realize, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, worldly pleasure and worldly suffering are the same thing. In order to be free from worldly suffering, we have to give up looking to the world. Well, can I be in the world and be a man of knowledge? You can do anything you want. But if you're unhappy, it's because you're attached and identified. That's it. Why am I attached and identified? Because I think the snake and the rope is real. I think the ghost and the post is real. I'm having a bad dream. Now, if you have a nightmare at night and then you wake up, oh my God, what a horrible dream. You know it's a dream when you wake up, don't you?
Mhm.
You still know it's unreal. You just didn't know it was unreal while you were dreaming. So cut yourself some slack when you have moments of ignorance. Beating ourselves up for being caught in the dream doesn't work. And this is what the scriptures call the lowest order of jnanis, those of tenuous mind. I call it the yo-yo state. Sometimes I know, sometimes I drop everything. It's all very clear. But my ignorance overcomes my mind again, and I think I'm a person and I'm out there and the world seems pretty effing real. But then I either read scripture or meditate or satsang, and it falls away again. I remember who I am. Scriptures would say you're technically a jnani, you're not technically jivan mukta. Yeah. You don't have sthita prajna. There's more work to do. Is that useful?
Yes.
Now, it never ever works to have what the Buddhists call the second arrow. Now, help me out because you're a Buddhist and I'm not. But the first arrow is the suffering I have. The second arrow is when I beat myself up for it. Oh, how can I have gotten so identified? I'm a bad yogi. That's really foolish. Who is it who's all worried about being a yogi? Don't drop that now. Don't try to be a Mahayogi. Be Brahman. Much simpler, much less of a burden. Don't have to be anything. Let the Lord take care of this body, mind, intellect. But if I want to be a man of steady wisdom, and I think I can be jonesing after the world, I want a relationship, I want money, I want to own a house, I want this project to be doing this, I want to have a baby, I want, then knock yourself out. But don't complain if you suffer. That's simple. And we can have noble desires. I want the world to be peaceful. I want people to stop killing animals. I want Gaza to stop being bombed. I'm not saying these are not valid things in the relative world. But dudes, it's not real. Nobody died. I'm not saying bodies are not smashed, but nobody died. 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza, and 2/3 of them are children. 2/3 of baby bodies have been destroyed. No complaint, no criticism, no argument with that. But nobody died. You're safe. Other people don't know that. But if the self in you is birthless, changeless, and deathless, I got news for you. So is the self of a child in Gaza. Birthless, changeless, and deathless. They're safe. Doesn't mean suffering isn't going on. I did not say that. I said nobody dies. There's no person there. But there is a conscious, sentient being that is never touched by this world. It'll be okay. Any thoughts on this?
So that's only when you're jonesing that it's a problem, right? Like it boils down to the relationship with all of your desires.
There's a difference between a preference and an insistence. If you are convinced, I must have it a certain way in order to be happy, in order to be okay. And it only takes two forms. I either need to fix the world or I need to somehow fix me. If that seems real to me, I'm an idiot. Buddha. Good old Buddha. And it doesn't mean not to act in the world and strive for justice. Want to make a difference, make a change. And when we discover that it's possible to act from a place of, of creativity, of expression, because it's our nature. I mean, it's so cool to watch like young kids. We got lots of young people, the children in this neighborhood. And I can remember so vividly, I was at the intersection right out here, across Grand Avenue. And there was this mother with two kids. I think one must have been 4 and one must have been 5. These two little girls. And she was holding their hands as they were crossing the street, and the younger one just broke away, and she just had to twirl and then run to the other side of the street. She couldn't help herself. Have you seen kids do that? They just have to move. It's their nature. There's no jonesing in that. Or as artists, you practice, practice, practice. But if you are a true performer, when you get to the point of the performance, it's always out the window. You trust and just have a blast, have fun, let the music come through. I know you two have had experiences. So in the end, that kind of desire is not an impediment to realization. It's craving. Is that useful?
Mhm.
All right, next verse. Did you get your question answered?
Yes.
Are we on 61?
I have no idea.
Yes, yes, we are.
सदैवेद्यादिवाक्येन ब्रह्मसत्त्वं परोक्षतः गृहीत्वा तत्त्वमस्यादि वाक्याद्वक्ति सुमल्लिखेत्. The Vedic texts such as, quote, before the creation, Brahman alone existed, end quote, give indirect knowledge of Brahman, but the text, quote, that thou art, gives direct knowledge.
Yes. So again, as is the tradition, he footnotes his point.
Yes.
So
Chandogya Upanishad.
Chandogya Upanishad says before creation, Brahman is. Oh, that's comforting to know. God's real, God is. But the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, you are that. And that's called the Upadesha Mahavakya. All of yoga is contained in that Mahavakya. It's you. It's yourself. Self-realization gives us two things. This is my particular paradigm. One, existential freedom. You're okay. Nothing's going to harm you. Nothing's going to harm the ones we love. You are like the center of the cyclone. Number two, what I want is happiness. That's the dharma of the human mind. It's a pleasure seeker, pain avoider mechanism. I'm seeking the good by my highest understanding of it. That's the big doubt. Where is the good? Idiot, it's myself. Oh, I mean, it's not people, places, things, and conditions. It's not drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Even when we get those things, we've just used them to induce the state of the mind free from longing momentarily. There's nothing real in it. If you open up a magazine and there's a good looking woman or a good looking man, ooh, they're so hot. There's nobody there. It's pixels on a page, little dots of ink. that's there. Nothing real. But my foolish mind goes, ooh, that's pretty hot. That's all this world is. Brahma Satyam Jagan. It, yeah. Something there is that's here, but it's Brahman. And the world just hangs in it like a hologram. You all remember the story of Chudala? She shows up both in Tripurara, Hasyam, and Yoga Vasishta. She's the queen with the dumbass husband. She gets realized and he goes to the forest to do a ritual. So she turns herself into she gets cities, becomes Kumbha, a young Brahmin boy, because she knows he won't listen to a woman. She tells the story of the fellow who was searching for the Chintamani, the wish fulfilling gem, and he finds it, but not realizing what it is, discards it, keeps hunting and finds pieces of colored glass, thinking they are precious jewels. And he feels so satisfied with what I have. So also you and I, yourself, is the Chintamani. Many of us have had a taste. So clean, so pure, so peaceful. But I do not recognize it as such. Then I set it aside and go after people, places, things, and situations. All entangled. Worthless pieces of glass, trinkets and baubles. Pretty, but not substantial. Next verse.
Adimatya आदिमध्यावसानेषु स्वस्य ब्रह्मत्व धीर्यं नैव व्यभिचरेत् तस्मात् अपरोक्षयं प्रतिष्ठतम्. When a man knows himself to be Brahman, his knowledge does not vary whether in the beginning, middle, or end. This is direct knowledge.
Yes, when you get that it's you, that it's not a mind state, it's myself. When am I ever not me? And when I learn, just like what you were talking about, not to believe the mind, then I give up being concerned about various mind states. Now, listen very carefully. It is of value to be able to get established in the bliss of samadhi. And then we must renounce the bliss of samadhi. Why? It's a mind state. Comes and goes, varies in intensity. Sometimes easy to tune up, sometimes not. Enjoyable. Don't be attached or yearn for it. Don't make nirvikalpa another object of desire. True story. So when I left the ashram in 1977, I was just hiring a kite. And I was reading all these texts like Avadhuta Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, where it says, who is it who's meditating? Drop it, drop it. So blissed out. And then after a period of months, knowledge of the self never went away, but the ananda diminished. I don't know. And my friend Ram was coming through town. I said, Ram, I'm not a doubt. Explain this to him. He says, oh, what you want's worldly pleasure. The seeker, the sadhak, is seen to do spiritual practices so that he or she may purify the mind and realize the self. The siddha, person of wisdom, may also be seen to do spiritual practices, but it does not add to their knowledge of the self. You either know it or you don't. It's just the highest form of worldly pleasure. And in different ways people do it. Some people revel in the halls of Vedanta. Other people like to sing praises to God. They do kirtan. Some people walk in the Himalayas. All sorts of ways to revel in the self. Subtle point. Next verse.
So wouldn't that mean we kind of addicted to the bliss in some ways?
Well, if you're addicted to it, if you're attached to it, which is what I think is a better word, then if your mind moves into a more tamasic or rajasic state, then you get all upset. Rather than saying, it's not real, it will pass, it's just a stupid mind state. Does that make it clearer?
Rather than saying, why am I feeling this way? Or like, why is the bliss not here?
You can do whatever you want, but what this one does, I don't need. Be empty inside. Have no concern. Now it's a paradox because what Shankar will say on his teaching about samadhi, you want to get established in it. Tune up the mind, keep it intensely inverted. As much as you can, as often as you can. Then at some point, understand that that's a mind state. Now, if your natural tendency is to want to revel in that, Oh, that's great punya. This is what's indicated by the 3 stages beyond self-realization that are indicated in Yoga Vasishta. Self-realization happens at the 4th stage. So why are 3 more stages beyond it articulated in the scripture? They are not stages of bondage and release. They have to do with the experiences of the realized person. And listen carefully. They are karmic. They are not to be achieved by mere will or effort. In fact, if you're making efforts to have those states, you're not even a jnani yet. The mark of the jnani is he's given up making efforts. There's some paradox in there. Is that making sense? So you went off to a 10-day retreat. Did you do it because you thought it would be enjoyable and fun? Or, oh, I'm going to get something. Where was your mind with that?
Yeah, it wasn't really expecting.
Yeah. And I think you've been on retreats where, yeah, and sometimes you can't, you can't plan them, can you? You never know what's going to come up. So Swami Tapovanam, there's a wonderful story. I think it's in Wandering in the Himalayas, where he walked all the way from Uttarkashi to the Sharada temple, which is now in northern Pakistan.
In Kashmir.
Kashmir, yeah. But it's in Pakistan controlled part of it. It's not in India anymore, is it?
Not sure.
I think that's why it's not been repaired. Anyway, it's a long way. That's the point. And then he spent several weeks there chanting the name of the goddess with the priests and stuff who were there, having a grand old time. Which is, I thought, there's no worship of the god. It's not there. It's yourself. He did it because it was fun. That's his idea of a good time. Had a wonderful time. Ramakrishna, used to do his like, what did they call baby babas? He'd like dress up and you just mention God and off he'd go. But those are very rare beings. Very rare. Perhaps it will come to pass for you or me, maybe not. I don't know. But the mark of the man of wisdom or the woman of wisdom is, I know I am Brahman, and I've fundamentally given up concern for the body, mind, intellect, view bodies. They're Ishvara's problem. Kind of got a little bit off topic, but it's a good discussion. Okay, let's do one more maybe.
Janmadikaranatva kha lakshanena bhrigupura parokshena grihitvatha vicharat vyakti maikshata. The sage Bhrigu in ancient times acquired indirect knowledge of Brahman by reflecting on Brahman as the cause of the origin, sustenance, and dissolution of the universe. He acquired direct knowledge by differentiating the self from the 5 sheets.
Yes. So there it is. So we first of all have indirect knowledge. The self is, Brahman is. We hear the Mahavakya, this self is Brahman. That inspires us to enter into the path. And then abhyasa vairagyacha, as Patanjali says. Your own practice and intense renunciation, which thins the mind. And at the moment of realization, it's not, oh, I'm an enlightened person. I am a knower of Brahman. I have an awakened mind. No. It's all of that is unreal. Only itself is real. Sarvamaya, Sarvamaya. All this is Maya. And if I don't take it as real, if I don't get all tangled up in it, Sarvamananda. Okay, we'll quit here. What verse are we on for next week?
64.
64. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.